Hey, what's up? What's going on, people?
Greetings and salutations, man. How y'all doing?
Hey, Jenny. Oh, man, Jenny came through. Good people right there. How you doing, Jenny? How you doing, Bryce?
I'm doing all right, guys. How y'all doing?
Man, great to have you back on the show.
Always.
Talk a little bit about what went on this weekend in Atlanta sports. Had a great weekend in Atlanta sports. So, I can't complain.
Yeah.
Ricardo, how was your weekend?
Very, very good, sir. It was weird because I've had people, I'm in Chicago, as our audience knows, and I've had Ben, my brother from another mother.
Ben, hola.
We gonna get to it, my brother. You know we about to talk about it. But I live in Chicago, and I've had people just say, "Man, Ricardo, man, it's a great time in sports in Atlanta right now," and I'm like, yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, it is. Well deserved. I'm going to be not too high, not too low, a kind of level-headed Atlanta fan. But what was really interesting is this weekend, the Bulldogs did not play. So I had a chance to go to a gun training conceal and carry class. So I am legal. Really interesting.
All right. Well, I you know how I feel about that. You know how I feel about that.
Do tell.
Hold those comments, Ricardo. Hold those comments for when we get to it, because I really want to address that. Yeah. I think.
Paul's already on it. I see that.
Yeah, Paul's already on it. But I think it's our duty to protect our home and our family. I think that's a part of protecting your country and all that stuff. So I won't get too deep into it, but as a veteran, as our listeners know by now, I think that if you have a gun, you should learn how to shoot it. And then if you don't have a gun, you should think about why you don't have a gun and get a gun. So anyway.
Couple thoughts real quick, because I've always been of the former. I've just never been a huge gun guy, and I even shared with my trainer. I said, hey, I'm afraid of guns. I've never been a gun guy at all, and I told him, I said, kind of walk with me a little bit when we go in there. I'm telling you, I might look like it, but I'm not from that. I'm not a gun guy. But I do. Since times are changing, it's tough times.
What up, James?
What's going on, James? How you doing, brother? But I guess my question would be, well, what I asked him, I said, hey, what would you recommend as a first-time gun owner? And he suggested a
what up, Will?
Glock 9mm, Glock 23 9mm. What are you guys' thoughts? Anybody? I know we got some servicemen as well. Bryce, what you think, my man? You're rootin' tootin' gun. Or you live in Louisville, Kentucky. You might want to think about it.
I mean, in Kentucky, it's easier to get a gun out here. They don't got. I don't think they got to carry. You don't have to have a carry permit out here too. So
really,
wow. Yeah, you don't have their guns
in Georgia either.
Really?
Yeah, and I think ammo is cheaper here too. But yeah,
ammo is expensive everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
In general terms, it is expensive.
Yeah. I mean, just because it was already expensive, and then the supply chain issues, and anytime political parties change in the White House, they're like, you better get some ammo because this party is gonna.
What would you guys recommend? And this is a question out to the We Dat audience as well. What would be a good first gun? If you're a novice like myself.
I'm interested to see what our listeners say. I always say, I mean, I like Glocks. I like Glocks a lot. But the price tag on the Glock is an inexpensive Glock might get you a medium expensive other gun. So for me, I kind of feel like you should use your training and shoot your way up. Not endorsing any of those fall apart guns, but like maybe Smith and Wesson type guns to start off with and move your way up. I agree with Will. I agree with Will. A 38 revolver is a great personal defense and handgun. Easier to clean if you don't know how to field strip a pistol. So yeah.
My brother Paul, man, he's so Georgia. That's how he Georgia got. See, that's how I grew up.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, for your home, you can't really beat a shotgun, and they have these great locks where you can have the shotgun out, but just the action locked, so that you could have it loaded, right? Because a shotgun loading when you're nervous may not be the easiest thing, but these locks that lock on the action, you can have the gun ready, and then all you have to do is press your code, get the gun out, and then cock it and go ahead and shoot. So yeah. I mean, I definitely love shotguns for home defense. I have a shotgun and a judge for home defense. So yeah.
You know what's great? My wife actually took the class before I did.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Daryl Perry says Glock 17. I that came up, but I like the kind of. I like what you just shared about shooting your way up. That makes a lot of sense for me because I went to the gun range and I did okay that wasn't my first time. I've done it about 3 or 4 times. My brother-in-law, he kind of drags me there sometimes because literally it's just the noise and the popping. It's just. I mean,
the fact that you can admit it helps with your training. The best shooters on the range, the best snipers, the Russians prove, are women, and part of that is because they come in with that healthy. Hey, I'm willing to learn. Sometimes as guys, it's hard for us. It's hard for us to admit where we are.
Oh man!
But with that, where we are is a great transition to the Braves.
Come on,
the Braves shirt. Bryce really has on the Braves shirt. He just can't show the logo. So impressed with the Braves. About that. I'm not the biggest low caliber. But the Braves are going to the World Series. They're going to be underdogs. We know that. But they were underdogs in every series that they've and so this won't be new. This won't be new to them. But here's a little secret that people are overlooking. The Braves had, besides obviously the Giants and the Dodgers, they had a great record on the road.
Yeah.
So part of these series is going in there and snatching a game. And they have not gone to any series and not won a road game, which was a home game for the other team. And that's where the panic starts kicking in. So the Astros, Braves fan, we lose the first game, don't be disheartened. We lose the second game, don't be disheartened. Because that's what the Astros have to do. But if we win one of those games, we actually changed that format and made it, kind of twisted that pitching around. Ben, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that. I really feel like the Braves are going to win. All that jinx stuff is I agree, Paul. No, we
love it, Paul.
Hey, there's no commenting too much.
We love that.
It's not just being hot at the right time. It's having your pitching set up the way you want to have it, having your bullpen set up so that you don't end up overworking guys. Here's what the Braves haven't done. Think about this. We haven't had to use any of our 3 main pitchers in a relief role.
That's awesome.
And so what happens when you do that, because the Astros did have to do that.
Yeah.
And they lost their best pitcher is out for the postseason because they had to do that thing where they tried to make them come back and pitch it in relief. So it sets, like when you do that, like Smokesy is my favorite Braves pitcher ever. Not my favorite announcer. Like you wouldn't know he ever played a game in a uniform because he hates modern baseball and the Braves have too many modern baseball. But Smokesy my favorite guy ever. And he said, I was listening to him the other day, and he's like, hey man, ain't nobody pitching 1, 4, and 7 anymore. That ain't happening. Ain't happening. And then when the Diamondbacks won it, not only did they do 1, 4, and 7, both of those guys pitched in relief in some other games. So that is over. That's not happening. So I think that we are set up in a way. The Astros can hit, man. They can hit, and we go lose a game 9-2.
I won't speak that. Devil is a lie. I don't know about that, but I will tell you a couple of things that I'm already looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the media actually liking us for once, because the one thing that I couldn't stand being on the outside looking in, and I don't know how it was back home in Atlanta, but I'm telling you, everywhere else, especially that Ron Darling, it felt like announcers were openly rooting for the Dodgers. It just, and listen, I'm a different type of Braves fan. We've talked about this on the show, and I'm the guy who's always, they don't want us to win. They're hating on us. Something's going to happen. I'm the exact opposite where you're at with the curse. I'm careful not to jinx it. I didn't even watch parts of Game 6 just because it could have been my fault. Yes, I'm that guy. But I'm looking forward to a healthy narrative where we're actually getting some love from the people. Yeah, the TBS announcers are terrible, Ben. Well, because I know that the nation doesn't want the Astros to win. That I do know.
That is true. But obviously, for ratings, you want the Dodgers in there. But don't forget, we talked about this earlier the year on the show. The Atlanta is now the number 7 market, and across the Southeast, they draw huge ratings because they were the team. Tyler, how are you feeling about it?
Bryce.
Oh, yeah.
I was looking at a comment. I'm sorry, Bryce.
Oh, you get it. I agree with the TBS comment. Obviously, seeing it, watching it and just seeing the favoritism was kind of like, dang, they really doing it blatantly. I don't know if y'all ever saw the tweets from the MLB account.
I did.
Yeah, they would tweet, "Oh, time for Dodgers baseball." Like, how serious going on right now?
Is this a local Major League Baseball? Are the Braves playing tonight?
Yeah, it was bad, and I think it's crazy because I said, the Braves, from everything I've seen and watched, it seems like they have a respected history. They're a respected baseball franchise. And, I would think, okay, I know there's actually a decent number of Braves fans not from Georgia that live in other, states because, the Braves have never been this small baseball, team. And so see the MLB itself kind of basically just kind of make it seem like they're just there, but it's all about the Dodgers. It was just kind of crazy to me. Well, but I think that's the theme of every Atlanta team. That's why I say the national media hates Atlanta sports. I don't know why. I don't know what we did to them. But
I think we're newcomers to the block, right? Because all sports franchise, Bryce, today's my birthday. And so I'm really
happy birthday, sir.
I'm really old. But in 10 years before I was born, there was no teams in the sport in the South, period, of any kind. None. And so that's why we are relative newcomers, because if today was my birthday and I look so young and fine, the people who are making those network decisions are older than me. So that means that they grew up without a team in the South. So I think Atlanta, we take it personally, but if you think about it, when Carolina went to the Super Bowl, same treatment, same thing that, gosh, this wasn't what we planned to happen. And so I think that's what happened.
I'm gonna play a little devil's advocate. Here's number one. I've shared the TBS argument in here before about how growing up we had, we were poor, of course, so we didn't have cable television, so we had the TBS channel. Well, the TBS channel was a national channel. They all had it too, and so from Houston to Florida, there was all to the Carolinas, Alabama, the South. Those were all Braves fans, and they traveled. They all traveled. When I used to live in Los Angeles, I went to the Braves. Somebody gifted me with the Braves versus Dodgers tickets. Happy birthday to our brother Jamil.
Hey, Mama Mia, thank you.
There was a nice group of Braves fans. It wasn't like we took over the stadium, but Paul, you're right. The Southeast is Braves country, but who do we just beat? When we beat the Brewers, man, they had a healthy contingent of Braves fans up there.
There was some Braves fans, some guys with UGA shirts on in LA.
Yeah,
There's not going to be a game that's not going to have some Braves fans.
Yeah,
but
to your point. No, I was just going to say, to your point though, what it is, man, baseball is still making money, but everyone's trying to recover from that COVID loss.
True.
So they were like, we need the Dodgers. We need that.
Right. That's a good point. That is a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. But let me tell you why I'm not afraid of the curse anymore.
Okay, help us out.
Paul Cox said this earlier. Leave it up, brother. Leave it up. Tyler Matzik stopped the narrative from happening in the 7th inning.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you this, and this is not as a Braves fan because we keep it 100. We are sports fan.
Yeah, we do.
Tyler Matzik pitched the most dominant, the best relief pitching that I can remember. It might have been some in the 1900s in the black and white things when they didn't let black guys play. But I've been watching baseball since I was a kid.
Yeah.
To come in against the highest scoring offense, the highest paid team, with no outs, no outs, runners on second and third. Hey, mama, what you're hoping? Hey, babe, what you're hoping is we at 4-2. Mm-hmm. Can we get out of here with just one run? Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're gonna have 3 batters, and it was the heart of the Dodgers lineup. It wasn't some pinch hitters. Hey, Bunky Bear, that's my daughter. It wasn't just the number 1 hitter, the number 9 hitter. You had Mookie Betts. You had the guy who had 3 home runs, and then you had the guy who had knocked in the runs that they had scored.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so Matzik comes in, we hemorrhaging, right? Mm-hmm. The run is already in, like Paul Cox said. Mm-hmm. If you believed in the curse, that was the time. Because we just needed to sacrifice fly. You just needed a ground out the second, a ground out the shortstop, a ground out the third. All those things score a run. He struck them out. And just in a dominant fashion.
Well,
I've never seen a relief inning pitch like that. And listen, if you haven't watched it, even though the series is over, if you don't like baseball, even though the series, go on YouTube and do Matzik 7th inning and tell me you don't get the chills. It was incredible.
Well, I did watch it, but I did not see it live because I believe in the Jeep. So I was outside of the room. The television was on. The television was on, but I was doing my duty for the Braves saying the saloon is Blue Jack. I said, it's my key.
Well, I can tell you what wasn't jinxed, and it was our Falcons. We are on a little bit of a run, right? We are on a little bit of a run. Yep. And part of, I told you, part of what, if I'm looking at sportscasters or podcasts like Bryce's podcast, and I want to see, do I like you or do I not like you? Are you going to keep it real? Mm-hmm. We all can make mistakes. I can tell you, we're 3-3. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean we're going to the Super Bowl. That doesn't mean we're making the playoffs. But I can tell you, because of the other results, a lot of things are happening in the NFC, right? Mm-hmm. We are in second place in our division, depending on what happens tonight, right? Mm-hmm. And so one thing I can tell you is I'm seeing the NFL a lot better. I went 9-2 over the last 2 weeks. Come on. I'll post the receipts. If you just follow me, you can make a lot of money. Theoretical. Not this gambling is legal in your state. But what I can tell you, what I can, and Paul Cox, we do have to do that. But here's a mea culpa. I did not want a quarterback to take the place of Matt Ryan. I thought we needed somebody to develop under Matt Ryan. Yeah. Matt Ryan is balling. Matt Ryan is in the MVP race, and I saw it in that Washington game, and I texted to Ricardo. because you know how Matt Ryan does this thing where it takes him a year to get used to the offense, and then he'll start off it. Listen, in that Washington game, I was like, Matt Ryan is comfortable
and aggressive.
I mean, and so he is the highest rated quarterback in the last 3 weeks, right? The highest PFF. And so even though he had his lowest score in 3 weeks, this week, I thought he played a better game than those other 2 weeks where he had a higher score, because let me tell you, he had to overcome some stuff.
That's a good point.
We had that interception was one of the worst interceptions I ever seen. That was the wide receiver's fault.
Yeah,
it was just terrible, because it was like sometimes the quarterback makes a great play. We just let the ball slip through our hands and go behind our back and off our butt onto the cornerback who was laying on the ground. That wasn't great. The fumble, the only bad play he made was the fumble. And I can tell you, the fumble was caused because, one, we dropped the ball. We dropped the ball that would have gave us 9, right? And then the next play after that, they just weren't calling pass interference yesterday, because Howard was all over. And even if you just called a holding, like, you can't call that nothing. And so that put us in that 3rd and long, but he was being aggressive. And so Kyle Pitts was the right pick. Let me mea culpa that, because what he's doing now is he was going against Pro Bowl cornerbacks, and they needed help against him. I said, let's not waste time having him be a tight end, but he is a weapon, and maybe it's because he doesn't skip practice. His connection on that deep ball is better than we've seen in quite a few years from our number 1 receiver. And make no mistake, he's our number 1 receiver. So whatever we do going forward, which shouldn't be pay somebody who's not our number 1 receiver $20 million a year. I'm not. Listen, you can tell me a bunch of stuff we can do, but we can't pay somebody who's not our number 1 receiver $20 million a year. So I'm open for all options. Bryce, what did you see yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing what you guys are seeing. Matt Ryan's been playing really well right now. I think he, like they said, that chemistry with Kyle Pitts is really, getting there, and you're seeing him make plays. Kyle Pitts had to go against stiff competition. He wasn't going against a scrub. He was going against one of the best cornerbacks, and some people say the best cornerback in the NFL last year, especially in Xavier Howard. And he was able to make a lot of big plays, especially over the top. And so I think, every week I've always said it's just about progress with this team.
That is
continuing to get better, continuing to grow. And I think offensively we're hitting our stride. I mean, if you think about it, we've scored basically, for the most part, 27, 28, 30 points. Like we're scoring like almost 30. Like that in regular NFL is like, okay, if you're scoring that, you should be able to win some games. And luckily we've been able to win them, even though the defense, has made some things close. Obviously we know there. We knew talent. We knew it was a work in progress.
It is a bigger work in progress, to your point, Bryce. And I guess my only frustration is we have a bad defense with the veterans playing. Why not let the young guys play? We got a guy.
Do that a little bit more recently.
We did see a little more, but it's still some mysteries when you look through those snap counts. Like JTM, Jacob Tui Mariner, forgive me if I'm butchering his name. JTM, he had 3 sacks in an NFL game last year, but we can't get him more than 2 or 3 sacks. I mean 2 or 3 snaps. I mean, for me, I'm not saying make these guys starters, but you can't have a game where you didn't touch the quarterback. A quarterback who was panicky, who was we didn't heat him up at all, but we got a guy who had 3 sacks in a real NFL game against a Pro Bowl quarterback. He couldn't get any snaps. That's my thought. And it did take a while to get those safeties in there, and they didn't play the percentage of snaps that I think they should have played. But so I hope Arthur has done a great job of learning on offense. I think he needs to direct him and Terry Fontenot needs to direct some eyes to that defense, because I don't know if those guys are going to play, but we can't get any worse. I mean, to allow that struggling team, when we got them down by that, they was ready to give up. But
Yeah.
our secondary and our lack of pass rush let them back in.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was the only thing I saw.
Yeah, and AJ going down didn't help either. I
It
think
did not help at all.
that's when we start playing soft coverage because obviously AJ's not out there, so he's probably got young corners.
Right. Once so AJ went down, Moreau went down, and Harris went down, which he should have been in. But you know, you got 3/4 of your starting defense. You know, like when people say, "Oh, why did they play the soft coverage?" They 3 out of the 4 starters were out? But it wasn't that part of it. You can't. It was really. I didn't like the underneath coverage schemes. Like on that 3rd and 15, how can you let a guy sit down at the first down sticks? Like if he had been behind the first down sticks or in front of the first down sticks, okay, I get it. But we let him. He sat down at the first down. I didn't like that. Ricardo, you look like you had a
couple thoughts. Kind of want to backtrack a little bit about a couple things you both said. I did share maybe 3 weeks ago that I said, hey, you know, our schedule's kind of going to be easing up. So there might be some quality wins, you know, coming up. I actually thought, I mean, what are we 3-3 now?
3-3.
Yeah. I think we should be 4-2. I think we could all agree.
For sure.
I agree. But I think that loss that should have been a win really forced Arthur out of his comfort zone. And the commentators commented that he said, I played it too conservatively. And if that had worked, that might have cost us both of these last 2 wins.
That's a very good point. Very good point. We actually got another soft one. We'll talk about that a little bit more on Thursday. I think, boy, right now is a perfect time to play the Carolina Panthers.
We were talking earlier, like I have all the NFL teams on Twitter so I can get in their personal business, because getting in their personal business that's what the players are read. They have to read on their Twitter, what they have to read in the paper. If you looked at Panthers Twitter, you would think they were 0-7. They're out on Darnold. They're out on Rule. They're mad at Tepper. They wish they had Cam and Teddy Bridgewater back. I'm like looking at these tweets. They are angry. They are not. I mean, if you told them before the season they would be 3-4, they would probably take that. They only won 4 games last season. Like, what are you guys talking about? But now I guess they won those 3, but they have looked as bad as any team in the NFL coming up.
And also there's rumors about, I guess they might be in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, so to speak.
But are they on Deshaun Watson's trade list?
And we don't know that yet.
Yeah,
we don't know that.
The only team I think they said he openly denied was the Eagles, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He did.
Did they say why? Or that probably isn't fit for print, I guess.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's Philadelphia itself. I mean,
Howard Rosenthal, their GM is on a bad bender, buddy.
Yeah. I did share with Jameed earlier. I said, I tell you what, whether it's the Panthers or Miami Dolphins get him, you're getting a steal. People have forgotten, it seems, that this time last year, the second best quarterback in the National Football League was Deshaun Watson. And, you know, they're looking at his contract, but listen, $35 million a year is a lot. But here's the thing, 2 things. Number one, you got to look at it like, well, this guy, everybody else that they're going to pay, like Allen, they're going to pay him $50 million. They're already paying your boy Mahomes in Kansas City about $50 million a year, right? So $35 million a year is a steal. You got him locked in for the next 4 years. So you're going to be paying a top 3 rated quarterback $35 million, which is far less than what you're going to have to pay Allen, which is less you're going to have to pay Lamar Jackson, which you're having to pay Mahomes now. So that's one way of looking at it. The other thing is, boy, I tell you what, if you're going to pay somebody, because I've had people, hey, why are you hating on Matt Ryan? No, my issue's never been with Matt Ryan, the player. You see what he's doing right now. But in today's NFL, if you're not mobile, it's just going to be tough for you. And I think what's going to be really good for whoever is able to pick this guy up is now if you're paying somebody $35 million, you can afford to go a little slack with your right guard. You don't have to have a top 10 right guard if you have a guy who's that mobile. Now, you want a serviceable offensive line, but you don't have to pay out the wazoo. Matt Ryan's at his best when what you guys are seeing in these last 3 weeks is he's actually gotten a little more comfortable with the blocking scheme. And so he's like, okay, give me 3 seconds. If I know I got 3 seconds, I know I can make my reads in 2.5. And that's what's happening. And he's still Matt Ryan. When it comes to him throwing the ball 20, 25, 30 yards, there's very few better that's been doing it in the last 10 years. He's that good. But I think what's happened is it just took a little time. He's comfortable in the offense. He knows who isn't and he isn't. The only thing that's kind of got me worried is really looks like a little worse than I thought. And I don't know what's going on. There might be some off-the-field stuff going on. But Calvin Ridley looks – that interception was embarrassing. That's like he got to man up, son.
So I think as we go to the rest of the NFL and we have that – you are having a Deshaun Watson conversation conveniently in a silo without all the outside stuff happening, and there's no way you can make that trade without a resolution of the outside stuff happening. So I don't think that you can. I don't think you can do that. Not saying I don't think you can trade for him. I don't think you can trade for him without taking some risk of what's going to happen or what could happen.
And don't forget too, the NFL is unlikely to suspend him for this year. So if you want to try to make a run this year, it sounds like he should be good to go to play. It's just the next years you don't know.
Right.
That's true. We won't have a conversation about. Go ahead.
So no, I want you to finish because then I want to
we won't have a
around the
conversation
NFL
about is the innocent or guilty? That's for the courts to decide. But I will say that between the Panthers and the Miami Dolphins, they ain't looking to win.
Right. Neither one of them are Deshaun Watson away from making the playoff. Exactly. That is an excellent point. Yeah. And as we whip around the NFL, there were some statement games yesterday. I thought that the Bengals made a statement, and we talked about Joe Burrow and Chase before the season because it was like we did our preview after the preseason when they were like, he can't catch, and it's like, did you not watch him in college? Listen, we were talking fantasy, and I said, listen, I don't care he's the number one receiver there at Cincinnati.
Hey, Jimmy, to that point, I've been trying to tell people. I said, you see how good Justin Jefferson is in Minnesota?
Right.
Well, in college, he was the other guy.
He was the other guy to hit Jamar's face.
Yeah, they played together. He was the other guy.
I thought that was a statement, not so much for Baltimore. I think, the only statement to Baltimore was, hey, buddy, you're not running away with this division. You're not running away with this division. We here with you. But I think really for me, I just and my brother said something earlier about Mel Kiper and talk about Sam Darnold. Sometimes we get so attracted to these traits, right? And Trevor Lawrence is the best prospect since Andrew Luck, who is the best prospect since John Elway. And to me, there's a bunch of quarterbacks that ended up better than those guys, right? And so what I saw when I saw Joe Burrow was a confidence and a timing, the ability to move around in the pocket. And I was like, who would not draft Joe Burrow? And I was just like, it's something about him, the way how comfortable he is back there. He never
carving up SEC defenses.
Just carving up the best defenses he's going to face. So, and it's transferring very early. Another big statement was Kansas City's lost. And I didn't use the word lost wrong. You know, it would be like, sorry for your lost. I said Kansas City's lost. Kansas City is lost. Listen, Patrick Mahomes is like that guy who was working hard as a junior and now he's a senior and he's all of a sudden a total jerk. Hey man, that defense is terrible. That line is terrible. And let me tell you something that has plagued Andy Reid over the years. You know, like Andy Reid won a Super Bowl, so that means he's a genius all the years he's coached, including the 20 that he didn't even go to the Super Bowl. But one of the problems that I had watching Philly back in those days was, man, if you don't make them run, they ain't gonna run. And so Andy Reid is falling back in his Andy Reid tendencies to pass too much, and they're playing too high safeties. And you just play too high safeties and challenge Mahomes' patience to throw underneath, and the Andy Reid's willingness to call runs and be fine with 3 yards.
Into that, who's their number 3 receiver? Who's their number 3 playmaker? They don't have a running back. We know that.
Right.
But who is their number 3? We know who Kelsey is. And we know that boy Hill is ridiculous. Tyreek Hill is ridiculous. But man,
he is ridiculous, but he's not a number 1 receiver. Let's start with that.
No, yeah, well, tomato, you know.
Yeah, he's not so that's where you start, right? Yeah. So you don't have a number 1 receiver. You have a number 2 as your number 1, but he's not a possession receiver. So we just go all our routes gonna be 17 plus routes. That's all we throw on. We don't throw no check downs here. We go deep every play.
We're gonna talk about him a little later. They need a Lad McConkey type.
They actually need a big receiver. They need a big receiver that can post up and get that first down.
So they missing Sammy Watkins right now.
You know what? They are missing Sammy Watkins right now.
Well, so are the Ravens. So Sammy might. The only what Sammy reliable for is to be on that injury report. I can tell you that. So I think those 2 games stuck out. The rest of the games went. It wasn't any surprises. The Lions stuck with the Rams. It was a lot of teams on byes. Arizona is becoming dangerous.
Yep.
Arizona is becoming dangerous because I think that Green Bay, Dallas, Tampa, and Arizona, I don't see them losing more than 2 or 3 games. So the battle for it's going to be a big gap because I think the last team in the NFC might have an 8-8. That's why the Falcons are still in it. So I think that, coming out of there, if the Falcons can stay 3-3, if they get 3-4, get to 4-4. If they get 4-3, try to get to 5-3. But if they can stay close to 500 along the way, if they're within a game of 500 the rest of the way, they're in the playoff. They're in the playoff discussion because some of those teams we thought were going to be good. San Francisco. Shanahan has lost all confidence in Garoppolo, but Trey Lance is not ready. The other big story to me, I hope so, Paul. The other big story to me is the rookie quarterbacks as a whole. We were told this was the best rookie class of quarterbacks ever to come along since 1983, and they are all struggling. Like I see some people like, could Fields do that? Listen. Find me the rookie quarterback playing well. There is none. None of them are playing well. And the question is, should any of them really be playing? The pressure that came with this class was like, we got to play these guys, and none of them are playing well.
Well, yes and no. I'm here in Chicago, and
no, tell me who's playing well.
Let me I got a couple points. Fields might have. That might be the worst off. That offensive line might be worse than anybody outside of Kansas City.
I think they're worse than Kansas City. They're worse than Kansas City.
They might be worse than Kansas City. But the thing is, it's like I don't think he has any help. His first string running backs out. His second string running backs out.
You don't see any rollouts or sprint outs. You're right. I watched a lot of that game, and I was just like,
yeah. And Nagy is doing him no favors.
Everybody wants
none at all.
They want him fired ASAP.
Yeah, go ahead, bro, Bryce. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they want Nagy fired ASAP. Every Bears fan, everybody is just like, even people who aren't Bears fans who watch it say they are ruining Justin Fields right now. They are giving him nothing.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you something. everything you just said, take that list and take it to New York, and that's saying the exact same thing about Wilson, who got hurt yesterday in a 54-13 drubbing. And at some point, it's like, can we pull him off the field and play him some series? I mean, like he's on the injured reserve. He's out for a couple of weeks now. But like the same things you're talking about with Justin Fields, they're like, did they look at any of his plays in BYU? Like, are they trying to run the offense that he can run? So it's the same thing. And Trevor Lawrence is struggling, and Trey Lance has struggled when he's gotten in the game.
Well, that was the other thing I was going to say. Garoppolo looked terrible. Good night. Garoppolo's terrible. I think Trey Lance is going to end up starting just because Garoppolo. Oh yeah, I think Trey Lance is going to end up starting because Shanahan is like, get this guy out of here. Yeah, and if Shanahan's smart enough, which I think he will be, goodness, God bless him, to actually say, you know what, Trey Lance can't do this yet, and he can't do that yet. But I tell you what, if we roll this joker out. Yeah, I mean, he ran 20 times his last start. Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to do well. I'm just saying, I tell you what, can't do worse than what Garoppolo's doing in his situation.
And the thing, too, with Lance is when they used him in the packages, it almost felt like every time they used him in a package early in the season, he would score because it's easier in a gadget way. But asking him to be straight up your quarterback, I think is where his progress as a thrower is still kind of coming along. So unless they're about to make a Lamar Jackson type of offense he had his rookie year, I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, Garoppolo's not really doing any favors. And I do have one San Francisco fan that stands on his grave that Garoppolo is the guy, and it's just the team isn't healthy. And I'm just like, okay, my guy.
Let me tell you, Garoppolo, the Garoppolo era is over.
Well, Daryl Perry just brought up a good point. And I don't know if there's something going on with Ayuk that, I don't know enough. Listen, I'm old enough to remember when Kyle Shanahan was almost kicked out of here before the year of the Super Bowl. People seem to forget. Everybody remembers 2016. I don't, because I don't remember what happened in the Super Bowl. But people seem to forget 2015. We wasn't a fan of Kyle Shanahan. No, nobody was. I was like, I don't know what I'm seeing. It just looks like him and Matt weren't getting along.
I was one of the few ones because I could see them. They could move the ball between the 20s, and they just couldn't score in the red zone. And to that point, Arthur Smith has us number 4 in the NFL in the red zone. That dude, I told you, he can drop some plays in the red zone. And listen, if he had wanted to score a touchdown, they could have scored a touchdown yesterday. I mean, his play designs, even that pass to Ridley, that was a great play. That was a great play design. So
I like Paul Cox's point. He says no matter the phenom, the quarterback needs to land in a decent setup and system, and that's kind of what I'm saying.
That's true.
Mac Jones, they did all right yesterday.
He's probably the best rookie QB out of everybody just because he's been able to hold his own. He hasn't been like overwhelmed. He hasn't been great, but he's like, you can sit there and be like, okay, we can work with this. There's progress that can be made here, but we can work with this.
Don't want to tick off the We Dat fan base because I don't know why some of you seem to like this guy, but I'll take him over Cam Newton. That's me personally.
Who is that?
I take your boy Mac Jones over Cam Newton.
No. I mean, Mac Jones, had 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So it was like, hey guys, don't get in front of your skis, patting him on the back like he was having some kind of phenom year. So real quick, I want to shift gears to college. The Bulldogs were off, and Alabama. They struggled. That final score is a little deceptive because they scored 28 points in the fourth quarter, right? So this was literally a 24-17 game in the third quarter. And then they put 28 on them, and then it was like, they scored 52. They scored 52. But
for you, what are your Bama fans saying about?
They're concerned about the defense and the ability to attack down the field because, of course, they're looking through every game through the the Bulldogs matchup lens. Cincinnati almost tripped up against the Navy. Penn State lost 10 overtime. Listen, man, I don't feel sorry for James Franklin because you keep telling me James Franklin can recruit quarterbacks, and I keep seeing guys who don't play it down in the NFL. And so, that quarterback, he was injured allegedly, but I mean, they couldn't score a single 2-pointer for.
Why is it allegedly?
They could score 2-point conversions 7 overtimes in a row. It was painful to watch. But the two things that have an effect for Southern football was Penn State is down. Oregon pulled out the game against UCLA, and they're waiting in the cut right now. The Pac-12 is not going to help them because they keep every time Utah lost, every time a team jumps up, another team knocks them down. They have the biggest struggle. But Ohio State is. I said when Alabama lost, the season wasn't over, and when Ohio State lost, the season wasn't over. Now, I know we're doing the right thing. Kumbaya. Cincinnati hasn't lost anybody, even though Navy had the ball driving into their territory as a 28-point underdog in the last 2 minutes of the game. But we're going to pretend like that didn't happen. Kumbaya. Man, Ohio State and Alabama would wipe the floor with Cincinnati. I think that's just going to be a challenge for them to get into the playoffs because if Oregon can run the table, if Ohio State beats Penn State and probably Iowa, Michigan, if Ohio State beats the rest of their schedule, they're in. Don't fool yourself on that. If Alabama beats the rest of their schedule, they're definitely in. The question really is going to come if Alabama beats the rest of their schedule and loses 24-23 to Georgia, are they in? But I can tell you, Cincinnati, their credibility is struggling.
Well, now, and I definitely want to hear Bryce's comments on this, but this is why I said at the beginning of the year, we do not need to change the playoffs. It's worked. It's worked. This whole system has worked the whole time. Y'all listen to Twitter if you want to.
Man, take.
Name me one college football champion where you was like, oh, no, Shawty, that's not them. Bama was the best last year. LSU was the best the year before. Bama before that. Clemson before that. There's never been, what's going on, Joe Ross? How you doing, brother? There's never been a controversial champion since we've set this 4-player system up. And I understand what's going to end up happening. They're going to end up making it to where we're going to have to do 6, 8. But this is 12 is ridiculous. I don't want to see no 2-loss, 3-loss UCLA or USC or somebody because you just want to have the Pac-10 in it, but you really don't. The Pac-10 teams ain't about nothing. I know Oregon's doing some things on the recruit thing, but you got to do that for years. This is what you're seeing with Georgia. What you're seeing with Georgia right now is years of being in the top 3 of recruiting, years of getting that guy. We got guys on top of guys. We had a show, we talked about this a week ago. Bama's best defender, Will Anderson, best defender, wouldn't start at UGA for 2 years. He's a sophomore. He's one of the best in the country. It just so happens that that's how good our linebacking core is. He wouldn't start here. Yes, Richard, go Braves. You missed that.
I do have one thing to say to the playoff argument, and this is one reason why I think they're doing it too. Because obviously we know it's about money. We know it's about ratings. Obviously, they know if we have more, let's say we have 8 teams, they know, well, now I have a reason to stay invested in my team because we may be able to get in. Where if you just know we're not going to get in the top 4, fans might tune out, whatever. We're not going to get in.
The rating for the bowls is going down and down. Yeah.
And so that's going to be, and that's where I think that's coming from with the playoff system. And then going back to the top 4, well, here's the thing. The key to Alabama is if Texas A&M continues to win, and then they're high-ranking teams, then that makes it look a good win. I mean, a good loss. Because if they were unranked, then that would hurt them. And then also it's the same thing. Same thing. Oregon lost to Stanford, I believe, I correct.
Right.
Stanford, yep.
And Stanford not holding up their end of the bargain at all.
Exactly. And so that's going to be viewed as a bad loss in the committee, where with Cincinnati, even though they did barely beat Navy, they did go and beat, they beat Notre Dame. If Notre Dame goes on and beats a one-loss team,
right?
You gotta say, okay, they beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame is keeping up the end of their.
They played some decent teams on their schedule this year just to give them say, hey, we beat these teams. So you can't say we just played the entire cupcake conference we're in. So that's why it's going to be really important if Alabama loses the second game. That is like, okay, it's not like they faced this cupcake schedule, but we still feel like the 2-loss Alabama team played against all these teams, lost to a high-ranked Texas A&M and lost to the number 1 team, Georgia. And then same thing with Oregon, obviously, pick 12. You never know. They don't lose another one. If Stanford looks bad, that's going to make them like, And then, it's just because Ohio State runs the table, you would think Ohio State. And,
well, hold on. Let me ask you about that. Ohio State lost to Oregon.
Yeah. So they need Oregon to
Ohio State come in because they win the rest because I don't think they're going to lose again in the regular season. But then again, I said that about Clemson, so what do I know? You know what I'm saying? But say they win the rest of the games. You're going to put Ohio State in over Oregon?
You have to. Go ahead, Bryce.
Oh, I was going to say, you got to think about who Ohio State's ending the season against. Michigan State right now, I believe, is on their schedule. They're undefeated. Michigan undefeated right now. And I believe Penn State, even though they have 2 losses, I mean, that's 3 ranked teams they're ending the season against.
And the Big 12 championship.
That's who you beat and when you beat them.
Right. And because what's going to happen is the Pac-12, Oregon is going to end up playing nobody. Like that South is looking so terrible. It's like it's going to be like a 3 or 4 loss team that they're beating. Whereas while Ohio State is beating Iowa, who's moved their way back up to number 9. You get some
I think you guys are both right. The one thing that, it's going to be. Let me tell you something. These West Coast people have some power. They have marketing dollars. And it's going to be a hard push to tell the West Coast no again, especially after they beat one of ours. Ohio State is kind of really one of ours.
I think, but and you're right about that, which is why I feel like Oregon is underranked now.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying? Like they're still not in the top 4. And to your point, they should be the ones saying, "Listen, Cincinnati is a cute story and everything, but we would wipe the floor with Cincinnati." You know how I know? We went in Ohio State and beat Ohio State. They have the best. They have by far the best win. Georgia thought they had the best win with Clemson, but as Clemson has gone down, that win, so they have the best win. Like our win against Kentucky is maybe the second best win, but they have the best win. They have the best win because that was a top-ranked team, a team that's going to end up in there with the competition and on the road.
Well, what are the betting odds on DJ? I can't pronounce the young man's last name from Clemson, and your boy, the Steelers head coach, going to USC next year.
It could be.
I think DJ is
going home.
Too sensitive to do it.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I think he should be doing it because whatever that offense is not working with him, and he showed out in this same offense. And then when you pull a quarterback these days, you better be making that decision with an eye on the transfer portal because there's no free pulling guys anymore.
Yeah.
Mike,
you guys, we did not mention it, but you guys got to say this, talk about this, share this. Oklahoma's still undefeated. I know it's some trash wins, but you cannot have an undefeated Oklahoma not going into the playoffs, gentlemen.
That's true. I don't believe Oklahoma's going to lose.
Okay.
They lost to Kansas, so they still have to play Iowa State, who is that coach needs to be in the NFL because he always loses in the beginning of the season, and it ends his chances of ending up with this college playoff system that you like, Ricardo. But his teams are always playing better and better. They're gonna beat Oklahoma. Early call.
Okay.
So they might lose 2 games, because Oklahoma State's
All
defense
they
is
need
for real.
they need to lose one, but they cannot be undefeated because you're talking about boomers.
Oh yeah, no.
That's kind of money.
You brought up a good point. I just in my mind, I hadn't said it out loud, but I'm like, after that Kansas game, Kansas is one of the worst teams in Division I, and they had them on the ropes. And that illegal, immoral play where the quarterback actually it is legal. If a defender had done that, they would have blown a whistle. Mm-hmm. If a defender took the ball out and ran the other way, they'd be like, wee. Mm-hmm. That whatever.
Okay, so I need to hear y'all's four. Who's going to be in the playoffs? Who's going to be in the playoffs?
For me, until Alabama's out of it, I can't take them out of it. So Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. I think Oklahoma is going to lose, and it's going to create some controversy. Okay. But I think Oregon is in, and Cincinnati is out.
Wow. Okay. How about you, Bryce?
Yeah, probably Georgia. I have Georgia beating Alabama. I just think if everybody's an undefeated or one-loss team, I just feel like
if Georgia beats Alabama, they're out.
Yeah, so then I think Alabama will be outside. Then I have Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Then I have Oregon for sure. Mm-hmm. And then I actually have Oklahoma getting in just because I feel like in terms of it's weird because it feels like Oklahoma should have lost a long time ago, but they just pull it out. They just pull it out. They should have lost to Texas, pulled it out. Should have lost to Kansas, pulled it out. They just pull it out. So I just think they're going to get in because they're going to keep pulling it out, and then that's going to be your four teams.
I almost want to agree with you. So they haven't played Oklahoma State yet.
No, that's the end of the year.
They haven't played Iowa State.
Yeah, and they play Iowa State. See, yeah,
and they played Baylor.
Oh man, that ain't no tough man. That ain't no
Hold on, I don't keep saying your point. I want to make sure I'm not lying.
I was going to say I'm almost with my boy Bryce, but
yeah, they still have to play Baylor. Yeah. Their last three games are Baylor, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State. It ain't no way they come out of that.
The Big Ten will work itself out. Georgia's going to be in. If they beat Alabama, Alabama's out. So I'm going to say Ohio State is going to pull it out. I think there's just going to be somebody's got to lose. Michigan State, somebody else got to lose. It'll work itself out because it always does.
But at least they all play each other.
They all play each other.
If Oklahoma loses, I think that's where the door comes open for Cincinnati.
That's where I was going. I was like,
because it's just like at that point, it's like you got 2 lost Bama, Oklahoma lost. They potentially could use multiple. You already got Oregon, Georgia in there, probably Ohio State, and it's just like, I mean, like I said, and technically, again, if Notre Dame wins out, Cincinnati's going to be like, I mean, if they're top 10, top 6, 7 teams, it's like you can't tell me you're not going to put us in. We're undefeated, and we beat a top 7 team.
Are they playing ACC schedule this year?
No.
Notre Dame or
they don't know.
No.
Oh, no.
Okay. Well, man, now that I forgot all about. No, they lost, right?
Yeah, they lost. They lost.
Okay.
But to Bryce's point, they have one loss just like these other teams that have lost.
They're not better than Cincinnati. So I'm going to say Cincinnati, Georgia.
Right. That might be the thing that holds them out because Cincinnati beat them.
Yeah. And Ohio State and Oregon. Matter of fact, that was a good win, boy. Cincinnati is not. Listen. It's going to suck because they're going to play Georgia, and Georgia's defense is going to be – they're going to make them look like they didn't belong. But they would give trouble. Or I like their quarterback, and I like the program. I like their coach. They would give fits to Bama, whose defense has been not Bama-like for the past 3 years, actually. Mm-hmm. And I don't think – I'm not saying they'd win, but it wouldn't just be just – I just think that Georgia, geez Louise, that defense is just – they've taken it back to like good night. That might be as good as defense as I've ever seen, not just at Georgia, but one comparable one would be the 2011 Alabama defense.
And I was getting ready to move you to the NBA, but I thought about this when I was watching the Ravens get dunked on by the Bengals. Mm-hmm. All big plays are because somebody bought the cheese to stop somebody from gaining 6 or 7 yards. And that was Georgia's problem when they played too much man and too much matchup. And so now what you see is if you got a bunch set and the open guy is at 5 yards, the safety should ignore that because Channing Tindall, one of the defensive – somebody's going to go out to get that. And that's why you see the big thing is the explosives are not there. And when you looked at what happened yesterday, all the tricks were the safeties trying to come up to stop 6 or 7 yards. That's the key. The big explosive teams lure you in with you trying to stop 6 or 7 yard plays. And Georgia doesn't have to do anything exotic to stop those plays because they have so much speed looking at the ball. So if you're not going to throw the ball 3 yards in the air and get 20 yards. You're going to throw the ball 3 yards in the air, you're going to get 4 yards. And then you're going to be – so that's one of the things that I observed looking at them.
To answer your brother's question real quick, there's no way Lincoln will leave. Did you just see Caleb Williams? Do you see how good he is? He's already one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the entirety of college football. He's that good. He's a real deal. And he's going to have that kid for 3 years. So, no, he's not leaving.
I think Lincoln, there's no college job proportionally better than Oklahoma.
You don't think LSU's is better?
No, not because – and hear me out on this, Bryce, and that's a good question.
Good question.
The expectations. Yeah, where's Oklahoma been in the last 4 years? Let's run down their last 4 years. Lost to Georgia with a team that they thought could compete for the championship, not in the playoffs, not in the playoffs, not in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. At LSU, they're starting to contact coach search for that. And so I think that there's parts of the LSU job that are appealing. There's other parts of the LSU job that's not appealing. Oklahoma they're not even thinking about looking for another coach at Oklahoma. And so that's what makes it a better job.
And then I have one more question.
Yeah, sure.
Obviously, you said Caleb Williams is going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Yes. So now the question is, where will Spencer Rattler go? Obviously, some people are very trying to see where. I mean, some people wonder, could he go to USC? Could he go to LSU? Could he even come to Georgia? Where is he? Because they feel like he could go a lot of places. What do you guys think?
You definitely can't go to Georgia.
There's too many guys in front of him in the room.
Beck is as good as him and might be better. He's good. Don't get it twisted. It's a litany of events. First of all, Caleb Williams is just that dude. He's really, really good. Second of all, this kid isn't well liked in the locker room. And football, this is the one sport, this is the one position that matters. If I got a dumb jerk as a tight end or a kicker, roll with it. But my quarterback has got to have – he doesn't have to be miscongeniality, but he's got to be able to get his men behind him. And I think he had a tough time doing that. But to answer your question, in my opinion, George says USC. That's actually a really good guess. I'm thinking he's from Arizona. He'll probably go play for Coach Herm in Arizona State.
To me, I think a good landing place for him would be Ole Miss.
That would be the best.
But the real thing is he needs some coaching. This is not a blame on anybody else, and this is not him being a jerk in the locker room. Mm-hmm. He's slow on his reads. His accuracy is questionable, and he just doesn't execute the offense as well as we've seen guys who don't have his natural talent execute it. So he has a laser arm, but he just doesn't. He needs coaching, and so the best thing for him to go somewhere where the coaching is going to get him to the NFL. And we don't know who's going to be at USC, but what we also know is if they get one of these national guys, he might transfer to USC and not start because that national guy is going to be looking for somebody else. What do you think, Bryce?
I mean, yeah, it's definitely possible. I think the thing is, remember, he came into the season, a lot of people's head as the best quarterback in this year's coming draft.
Yes.
And for him to get benched and now he's looked at as like a 6th-round pick, I mean, he has to really rebuild his draft stock and his image as a quarterback in the game. So he definitely needs to go somewhere who's going to put him in a good system, be successful. Ole Miss system is great because, it's that air raid all over the place. Lane Kiffin offense makes every quarterback look good. I think, obviously we got to be honest, Oklahoma has a very questionable offensive line. He was running for his life a lot, and that sometimes can break down a quarterback. We've seen it. We're seeing where Patrick Mahomes right now with Kansas City is breaking him down because he can't get protection. But I think, he has the talent. It's just like you said, he needs the coaching, and he also just needs the right system to put him in the best position to show people why he was even considered to be a first round
quarterback. He needs to rehab his reputation. Before we go, last week, opening week of the NBA, I think people are jumping all off the bandwagon. They're going crazy. Did you see anything that really means anything? Let's start off with you, Ricardo, so we can have our expert Bryce weigh in.
Yeah. As far as our Hawks go, no, sir. I felt like I'm one of those, give me till Christmas before I know what I'm looking at. Because my thing is, the 22, 23-year-olds with the legs, they're running now. But they weren't in the playoffs last year. So, of course, these guys, they got plenty of ammunition. But these Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets and these guys, you can't pay too much attention to the record. It hasn't been but a week, in my opinion.
Right.
In my humble opinion. Paul, I will say this. Oh, my goodness. Cam Reddish looks good. But I'm trying not to get hyped up. But he looks really good. My one concern that I have, I don't want to take Jamee's point. There's another player on our team that is looking good, but I think there's an injury history that's concerning. But I'll let Jamee expound on that.
No. You can go ahead and take it.
Well,
that's my first week takeaway.
That's not looking good, man. That's scary to me. When I hear knee issues at that age and what his attributes are, what he's good at, that's Jamee. Professor had told us probably months ago that's going to be a problem. It stays, and the worst part is we're not going to be able to get anything for him because I guarantee you, if we were to trade him to say the Sixers or the Lakers or whatnot, they're going to bring him in this office, in this room, and they're going to have their doctors, and they're going to see what Mr. Billingsley sees, and he's like, "Hey man, this is going to be a problem. You're not going to be able to play back-to-backs ever. You might not even play more than 2 games in a week ever." So we'll see.
Yeah. Like the Cleveland game was not a back-to-back, and he was noticeably less athletic and aggressive. He didn't shoot a free throw. He shot 5 for it. It was just a tough game. Yeah. And so that's why it's important, as people are saying, is we can't get rid of Cam as long as DeAndre. And I think even when we get to the playoffs, I don't think DeAndre is going to be able to play back-to-back games in the playoffs, even though they're not back-to-back, without some drop-off.
Yes, sir.
Bryce, what did you see?
I mean, I'm seeing the same thing you guys are seeing. When it comes to Hunter, I feel like that Cleveland game's kind of weird to look like because a lot of people struggled in that game. I mean, John was in foul trouble.
We got to mature past that. Past that. Be still doing that.
Yeah, like I think one of the biggest things I think right now with this team for Atlanta right now is their roles. I think that's changing this year.
Yeah.
The only person who hasn't really changed their role last year was John, which you saw his up and down is because of it. Now I think if we're actually going to be fully healthy, a lot more people are going to have to change their roles because it's like you have so much depth, but not everybody can impact the game like we expect them to as greatly as they can because of that. I think one person I've named that I think is going to be affected is Bogdanović because last year he was expected to be that number 2 scorer with Trey. Listen, when Trey was out, he would drop 25, 30. Now it's like with Cam playing well, now you're seeing people say Bogey shouldn't finish games. And I personally, I'm iffy about it because I feel like you need a lethal shooter out there in your last minutes.
Yeah, I'm a big Bogey fan. Yeah,
and Cam and DeAndre aren't elite shooters. They can knock it down, but it's like, and Trey's not an elite guy. So when you go out there, your best 3-point shooter is John. And but I don't think we're going to be like, all right, John, we need you to knock down a bunch of threes.
Right.
You get open. So I think, they have to figure that out right now, but also they have to play better against bigger and longer teams because they struggle against those teams. Yeah. Sixers, tons of turnovers. Bucks, tons of turnovers. Cleveland, they struggle when they use the zone. They were long. I just think that's more just chemistry, getting used to playing because that's not the last time they're going to see the zone this year.
No.
And just
it's written down now. It's written down now.
Exactly. They just got to get used to what they're seeing, which, again, it's 82 games. Listen, teams are going to lose to teams. They have no business. It happens to everyone. It's just building, developing habits, and getting better for when the time gets actually for real.
Yep. So Cleveland has our number a little bit. The only disappointment for me wasn't Cleveland, because if it had been Charlotte or anybody else of that ilk, it wouldn't have bothered me. But to me, this is when you look at the Michael Jordan effect and the Last Dance, this is a game that you want Trae Young to circle and be like, the little guards think they're better than me. They think, and they try to take it to me every game. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be a 40 burger. I'm giving them something, because I'm gonna tell you, when you if you hoop and you watch hoops, those Cleveland guards are like, man, Trae ain't all that. Every time they play him, that's how they play him.
Yeah,
and both of them. And so we only really have one little guard like that. So that was the only disappointing thing, that we didn't circle that, because that team gave us problems last year. Here's our chance in the second game to put them in their place. But as far as a loss in the first week, that doesn't matter. My takeaway for the first week is some of our foul drawing guys are struggling. Trae was really assisting that first game. Yesterday, like Bryce said, or the Saturday game was a bad game for everybody. So it's not any takeaway other than the free throw attempts are down for Steph. Steph is struggling a little bit. His shooting percentage is not good right now. James is really, really struggling. Trae and Book. And those would be probably the four most foul drawy guys in the guard position. I think Giannis drew the most fouls, but some of it was because, hey, foul him before you get to the thing. And then Joel Embiid. But those four guys they just still trying to find their way around, because some of the stuff they're doing, and I agree with Steve Nash, who I don't feel sorry for, because the rule is there because of you, Steve Nash. You tried to do that, you and Lloyd Pierce. So I don't feel sorry for Steve Nash because James is struggling. But Trae looks a little more comfortable, but I have seen him a couple of times try to get a guy up in the air, get banged, and they go like, hey, we ain't calling that this year. But
you only got one call in that game doing that.
Yeah. But James is really struggling with it. And those other guys I named are struggling to different degrees with it. So that was my takeaway from the first week.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people also want to see Nate play with the lineup a little bit more. I think backup PG is going to be a question if Wright doesn't get his shot going soon, because people really saw what they saw from Cooper and think, why is he not getting any run?
Right.
Obviously, also Jalen Johnson as well, because nobody wants to see Solomon Hill out there. They're like, we love you, Solomon, but we just don't want you playing any minutes.
Yeah, just wait to the playoffs to go in and foul somebody real hard.
Yeah. So Nate gives me that old school feeling of just like, if you're a rookie, you're young, you're not playing, I'm trusting my veterans and I'm sticking with it.
He is.
Ricardo, thanks for bringing us on. Bryce, let's shout out Bryce. Bryce, where can they find you, brother?
Yes, sir. You can catch me on Twitter at Brycey_2K. If you want to catch up with me, tweeting about Falcons, Hawks, Braves, everything under the light of Atlantic Sports. Also, my YouTube at Bryce Lewis, or my shows that I do on YouTube, the Atlanta Hawks or Atlanta Falcons fan shows, where I bring people on to talk about the team. And then also, if you want to go visit my website and see some articles that I've wrote, and I just released one last week on the Hawks season, it's Brycey2ksports.com. If you want to catch those articles there, and I'll be updating that. I'm also, if you do read the Soaring Down South articles, I'm also on there as well, dropping articles for them as well sometimes.
Awesome. Good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for the guys who were able to stay over. We were a little late tonight, but for myself, the professor, Bryce, the Queen Diva, who will be back in the house Thursday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you can, give us a like or subscribe. If you haven't, please share it with a friend. Peace up. A-Town down.